Welcome everybody to the trade deadline. So today's episode, we are going to talk about Dave Joerger. We are just going to get right into explaining some of the good and the bad about the coaching candidate. Some fans are very excited, probably fewer than the ones that are not excited. We are going to be going through Wikipedia articles. We are going through old SB Nation articles. We are going to look up a ton of research and try to give everyone as much information about Dave Joerger as possible. So buckle up, we're jumping in. So Dave Joerger starts sort of his basketball, at least that we're going to cover. He starts his basketball career off as a general manager, actually, of the Dakota Wizards in the International Basketball Association, the IBA. And then he later becomes the team's assistant coach, and then eventually becomes the head coach about 3 years later. And then Joerger, they said, had immediate success, and he leads his team to a 30-10 regular season record and winds up winning the championship. So after this, Joerger remains with the Dakota Wizards as they enter into some sort of merging with the IBA, the IBL, and the CBA. Because they're coming from the IBA, the Wizards were, I guess, declared a lower tier team, and were actually given a shorter schedule due to this. Joerger still winds up leading them to a league-leading 26-14 record. He was named the Coach of the Year, and then they swept one of the teams in the conference final. And then Joerger later wins the championship, the CBA championship. The year after he just won in the IBA, looks like Joerger wins in the CBA in a lower tier team. Impressive, right? He's already won an IBA championship one year, wins the CBA championship the next year, and then looks like he skips a year, doesn't win the next year. He still has a league-leading regular season record, but loses in the conference finals. But then the next year, Joerger loses 6 of his players to NBA call-ups. Obviously, this is incredibly difficult, right? Like, this is the tragedy of all NBA stories, where somebody loses many players, or just, one of their stars, and isn't faulted because, well, look at his lineup. He didn't have the players that he needed. Well, Joerger takes this and winds up losing all that talent that he had. He still manages a league-leading best record of 34-14, was named the Coach of the Year again, and then once, I think it was 2 of his players return back to play after the NBA is up, he wins a championship. And then after this, Joerger actually leaves his stint with the Dakota Wizards for another team. And with Skyforce, he actually meets this team that he previously coached in the conference finals, and in 5 games, the Skyforce come out on top and went on to defeat the Rockford Lightning 3-1 for another championship. So in a span of 4 to 5 years, this man has won 4 championships on 3 different teams. 2 different teams and 1 different league. And so on skill alone, Dave Joerger is just a boss. I mean, he is winning championships left and right with teams that weren't necessarily the teams that it sounds like that you would expect to be winning these championships. And then if you need anything else, Dave Joerger's teams, the Skyforce and the Wizards, both move into the NBA Developmental League, so does Joerger. But then he leaves the Skyforce to go back to the Wizards as head coach and leads the team again to another championship in 2006. So just think about this. You have a coach that in 2001 won a championship. In 2002 won a championship. 2004 won a championship. 2005 won a championship. And then 2007 wins another championship and wins 2 coaches of the year. This guy is on cloud 9. He is an incredible coach. And then finally, Dave Joerger enters the NBA as an assistant coach in 2007 and 2008. In 2011, under Lionel Hollins, Joerger is promoted as lead assistant and takes over as the defensive specialist. And they go on and improve their defensive efficiency from the 24th in 2010 to the 9th in 2011, 7th in 2012, and 2nd in 2013. Who is this man? He is just the greatest coach in the galaxy. And this is where I just want to stop here, because we're going to start getting into some of the more negative stuff. But let's just start right here. If you saw this resume on anyone else, on Dan Craig, on just anyone, right? This man is just a great coach, or at least has the potential to be a great coach. And that's what everyone else thought. And so they hired Dave Joerger as their head coach. And this came with not the greatest of acceptance, because Lionel Hollins had just led the team to the best record they've ever had in their franchise history since Vancouver in 1995, leading them to a 56-26 record and taking them to the conference finals. So then Dave Joerger becomes coach. It's stated in SB Nation that within 5 days of hiring Dave Joerger of coach, Robert Pera, the franchisee, wanted to fire him. Dave Joerger was leading the team to decent records. The year after Lionel had been let go, they had a 50-32 record, and then after that, a 55-27 record. So they were still doing pretty well, and they reached the first round, lost in the first round, and after that reached the semifinals and lost there. But Dave Joerger was having some other problems with the team, and these problems had more to do, it sounded like, with security and money than anything else. So Dave Joerger had, I think, about a $2 million contract in Memphis. And within the first year of being a coach with the Memphis Grizzlies, he was already asking permission to speak with other teams on their head coaching jobs. Because at the moment, it seemed like they weren't sure if they wanted to keep him. And so Dave Joerger is, in his mind, trying to have financial security, make sure that he's not going to get fired. It seems like that's the reason why. And they have a meeting with him and Pera, and they come to an agreement that they're going to extend his deal to give him a little more comfort that he's going to be okay. And within about 3 years, Joerger again asks to seek an interview. And at this point, it's reported in SB Nation, they had had enough and they let him go. And financially, it actually probably made sense for Joerger, because he was able to get a $4 million deal from Sacramento. One of the names in this list as well of teams that were interested is the Indiana Pacers. So Dave Joerger becomes the head coach of the Sacramento Kings, taking over for George Karl, who had just led the team to a 33-49 record. Dave Joerger leads his team in 2016 and 17 to a 32-50 record. After that, a 27-55 record, and after that, a 39-43 record. For context, Luke Walton has just led his team to a 31-41 record this past year. Again, there are many things at play in this season. That his first year, Cousins was on the team. I think his second year, Cousins wasn't on the team. There's a lot at play within what caused his record to be better or not. But the offense did change. And to a lot of people in Sacramento, they said they got better, a lot better. They got quicker. And the player development got a lot better. Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox, both statistically got better. And this is why, especially after leading the team to a 39-43 record, the team was a little surprised, or the fans were, when they fired Dave Joerger. They had just led the team to the highest record they had ever had since about the 2007 and 8 season. And I think this is where we need to look into some of the things that may have caused this bad relationship. There was an article in The Athletic that Jason Jones had reported that Joerger's relationship with some of the players had just turned a little off. One of the points was, I guess, that with Marvin Bagley, he never really seemed to connect with him. It left Marvin Bagley wondering if he even liked him. Harry Giles and Buddy Hield also had private concerns, apparently, with him remaining as the head coach, and they just didn't like how he was handling the rotation, apparently. This on top of, I don't know if any of you have seen the video of Buddy Hield taking a last-second shot and sort of getting reprimanded by Dave Joerger for taking this shot. It wasn't necessarily the last-second shot, but it was leading up to, it was a late-game moment. Buddy Hield is trying to win the game and comes up and shoots a shot that's, closer to what Steph Curry would mostly shoot. And so he gets on him. Keep in mind that he makes the shot, but he says something along the lines of, "Do you want to bleeping coach now?" There's an interaction between Buddy Hield and him, and Kevin Durant even gets involved because Kevin Durant's a little confused and is asking, "What's wrong with your coach? You hit a good shot." And it just causes a very confusing situation when you're watching it play out. And it causes Buddy Hield, when he actually has to take the last second shot, he hesitates and doesn't take a 3-point shot, goes in for a 2-pointer and misses. And it makes you wonder if he was supposed to take the 2-point shot and felt, that he had to miss that open 3 or what. It just leaves you with a bad taste of Dave Joerger and player relations. If you were to sort of boil down the two teams that he coached for, you have one where he doesn't seem fully committed because of money and being sort of scared, I guess, that he's either going to get fired or not really sure, but that he's never fully in. And you have another team where with Sacramento, sounds like he's fully in because he's got a large contract, but he doesn't really have the best relations with players. And so with one, you don't have a full commitment, and with the other, you just have bad commitment. And that leaves you with the impression that Dave Joerger is a headache with players and with front office. As a Pacer fan, trying to get the best thing that you possibly can, I don't think that the greatness of Dave Joerger's phenomenal development coaching in the other leagues and the G leagues and in the CBA and all of that, I don't think the risk is worth it. What's to say that he doesn't see the Pacers as just another stepping stone onto another coaching job? And if you have something like that video, right? Even if other coaches had issues with their players, obviously you're bound to have disagreements. It's known that Paul George had disagreements with Nate McMillan, but at least they weren't very transparent. Is this really what we want to do for another three years? We just had a coach that had communication problems with players. Do we want somebody who has actual poor communication with the players? And that's where I stand back and think, let's look at someone else who has a good coaching career as well, but doesn't have the baggage. And that's where I stand on Dave Joerger. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I think it's gonna wrap it up for this one. I wish you all the best, and until next time.